could I have you introduce yourself and what your job is and what it entails?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Sydney Jenner. I am the Associate Influencer Manager for the Sonic the Hedgehog brand at Sega of America. My role, in kind of a nutshell, is I work on the social media on the brand team to partner with various content creators to spread the word of the franchise and promote various products, games, shows, movies, all that fun stuff. So that's a really TLDR version of what I do.
Yay! So, also, what are some previous companies you've worked with, just off the bat?
Yeah, so before Sonic the Hedgehog, I was
Mhm,
at Razer. I was there for a little over a year and a half. I was the manager of global influencer marketing there.
mhm.
So pulled together an influencer program. Before Razer, I was at VidCon, which is where we met.
Yay!
And then before VidCon, I actually worked in-house for a YouTube team.
Oh, wow.
So, like, really, this was like back, like, my very first job was in 2019, and I like drove to this YouTuber's house every day and worked out of his house. And it was, yeah,
Wow.
but that was the very first thing that I
Mhm.
did, kind of in the creator economy.
That is sick. So, I'm gonna ask the questions in kind of like 2 chunks. That's also for people in chat because I know y'all are curious. I'm first gonna kind of ask about your, like, job experience, how you got started, and then we're gonna talk about, like, the creator side of it.
Sweet, sounds good.
So, people are curious and very cozy still ask the same question that's literally on my notes. How did you get this job? As in, like, start getting into the influencer manager kind of role?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of fell into it.
Mhm.
So I went to film school actually.
Mm.
I was convinced that I was going to work in reality TV. That was kind of what I wanted to do. So I moved out to LA for an internship. I liked the internship. It was fine. I didn't super love working in film, but I loved being in LA. I felt like I had made like a really great community of friends. So I was like, I don't want to leave. And one night, it was super duper late. I on a whim applied for a job. The job title was like YouTuber personal assistant. And I was like, well, I watch a lot of YouTube. Like I'm a big like fan of YouTube. And I just applied. It was on entertainmentcareers.net, not even a
Oh.
.com. Like like the fact that the job ended up being like a real thing and legit was kind of crazy. But that was the YouTube team that I worked for.
Mhm.
And then that kind of transferred into when I realized that you needed benefits and insurance and like to actually, being a freelancer is not easy.
Mhm.
I started looking for jobs again, and the job at VidCon was open. And the internship that I had done was actually with MTV. And so it was through Viacom. So, like, the
Mhm.
Viacom HR people reached out. They were like, hey, like, we saw on LinkedIn that you're, working with a YouTuber now. Would you be interested in this role? And I was like,
Mm.
yeah, this is actually perfect timing. I need health insurance. And
Valid.
so VidCon ended up being the best thing that could have possibly
Oh.
happened to my career. I learned so much. I learned from some really amazing like bosses. It was a really great, first pass into the world of working full time. I did this while I was actually finishing my college degree, so I was working and going to school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so then once I graduated college, I was already working full time at VidCon. I was doing talent booking. This was in the midst of a pandemic, so we were
Mhm.
doing a lot of virtual shows. We were doing some more like one-off videos. We got ready for the 2022 event. I found that I loved working with the gaming creators the most. That was where I, had the most interest. I knew the most about the, path. And so once I saw the Razor job, it just kind of made sense. And everything's just been a stepping stone since then. But entertainmentcareers.net is the short answer.
That's crazy. I haven't even heard of, like, a .NET browser in, like, forever.
It's if it still exists, I should have checked before this interview. It was like that's where I got my job. It was where I got both of my internships. Like it, I guess I owe my career honestly to entertainmentcareers.net.
I mean, it's all like a snowball effect, right? You got that, like, first job and then oh, Snail says it's still up.
Well, everybody stay on top of that website. Apparently,
time to look. Okay, well, you perfect because you answered the next question I had was whether you had, like, previous experience. So, I'm guessing or you fill in the blanks for me, but did you prior to your YouTube job, did you have any experience whatsoever in working with creators or influencers at all?
A little bit. I had
Okay.
an internship that I did in college my
Mm,
sophomore year. I worked for like a regional film marketing agency. So it was a marketing agency, and they had a branch of their company that did um, publicity and film marketing in localized communities. So we did Phoenix, New Mexico, and Las Vegas. And so I worked with mommy bloggers a little bit,
mm.
but that was like the extent of what I did. Excuse me.
Oh, okay. So it's all just, like, all your experiences came from, like, learning on the job since then?
Yeah, really learning on the
Mm,
job. I had made, like, videos in my own free time, like, I having a film degree, I had made YouTube videos, I had
mhm.
worked on short films, so I had some skills that I feel like when I interviewed for the YouTuber job, they felt were transferable, but yeah, no, kind of went into it blind.
That's so crazy. I
Yeah.
respect the hustle.
It's been like a this all started in 2019.
Mhm,
So I moved out here. I started this like basically 5 years ago. So
mm,
it's all just, taking what you've learned at each job and applying it to what you want to do next. And not I have definitely not been perfectly qualified for any of the jobs that I've applied for.
mhm.
Like but you can find skills in anything that you've done to apply to what you want to do.
Then what advice would you give somebody who is interested in getting into influencer managing or influencer managing, and let's say they kind of come, like, similar to you, where they have a lot of exposure to media, but maybe not, like, very much hands-on experience, capping out at, like, an internship like what you did?
This couple things. The
Mhm,
really silliest answers apply for everything. Like, I know that sounds really ridiculous, and people are probably like, but I don't want to.
mhm,
Like I said, I was never really qualified. I wasn't super qualified for any of my internships. Like, I just took a bet on myself, and I was like, I know these things. A lot of it's like optimizing your resume, get, search terms, make sure you've optimized your resume for the AI resume readers. But then things to do if it's not a professional like work, build your own presence, even if you don't necessarily want to be a creator. The more social media literacy you have, the easier it is to apply. And you can put those things, like I put silly little YouTube videos that I made, like ranking what I put in my bag, and those were things that I put on my resume when I was
mhm.
applying for these jobs, and they had 10 views. Like, it's not like I had a huge following. And those were so just keep putting the work into it, try, apply for everything. Nobody's perfectly qualified for any role, and if you are, you're probably overqualified.
Mhm.
So put yourself out there and just do as much as you can on the side. If you can, find friends. I think I modded in some people's chats, that helped. Like, little things that you can do here and there to say, hey, I've worked with creators, I helped do X, Y, and Z is really
Mhm.
helpful.
Yeah, I do wanna add on to the thing that you mentioned about the YouTube video thing, 'cause had a social media job for an esports org, and I literally put my TikTok and I had, like, a boba keychain business and Instagram for it. I put the Instagram on the fucking resume, both,
Yeah.
'cause
It's
it's relevant.
it's relevant, and it's like it seems silly, but like in your
Yeah.
skills section, like editing, like social media, these like what your level of competency is on different platforms.
Mhm,
I was a Tumblr kid. Like, I grew up on Tumblr. That like I probably learned my ability to like make memes through
mhm.
Tumblr, and like I hyperlinked out some memes that like had a bunch of reblogs. Like I was able to, get this community talking, and this was, again, this is Tumblr. When have we seriously used Tumblr in a business sense? Like
Ah,
anything that you can do, um, you might as well put it out there.
that is so well said. No, Tumblr, I feel like gives you a lot of good skill sets too, like
I learned how to
the creative
code.
eye.
Like,
You learned
I learned
everything on Tumblr.
yeah, I was on it way before I should have been too, but weren't we
Hey, more
all?
learning, more learning.
Hey, I learned from a young age. And so, yeah, I just Don't take a bet on yourself is the biggest thing. That's what I did. I'm
Mhm.
I didn't apply for my job that I'm in right now because I
Mm,
didn't think I was qualified for the role. And it was like my exactly what I did at Razor is similar to
mhm.
what I do now, but I was like, "Oh, there's probably a bigger Sonic fan and there's probably someone that's actually worked within a game community and has, knows this specific community way better than I do. Like I come from hardware." And so I didn't apply. And then after the job had been up for maybe 6 or 7 months, the HR reached out to me on LinkedIn. They're like, "Hey, we have
Wow.
this role." And I was like, "Yeah, I like really wanted to apply, but I was scared." And so I didn't. And they were like, "No, like you seem perfect on paper, like interview." And here I am. So I almost didn't even apply for that, because I didn't think I was qualified enough.
Wow, and then look at you now, that's crazy.
Yeah. So put yourself out there is what my biggest piece of advice.
Mhm. Do you have any advice for the interview process for a job like this?
Again, very silly answer. I Google like influencer manager, marketing manager interview questions, and
Mm.
I read people's answers and I see what they're saying and I see how I can apply that. I treat it kind of like it's like I practice the interview with myself, it's again what I've read in on Tube Filter, on LinkedIn. I read a lot. I make sure I read a lot of newsletters before I'm interviewing. So I know like I'm on top of what's trending and what's happening. And like I have right now, I have my answers typed out on my second monitor.
Ah.
So even if they don't ask you exactly, you can kind of anticipate most interviews what someone's going to ask, so you can at least give yourself bullet points to guide you so you don't feel like you're totally going in blind. I am a big fan of putting notes on your computer.
That is actually so smart. Wow.
I even like put it like on the monitor that my camera's on so it looks like I wish I had a teleprompter. I wish I had the Elgato
Yeah. To,
teleprompter.
like, look in the
That would
eyes and
be
read it.
that would be perfect for interviews.
No,
But I
that's
make
so
do with my like
smart.
little haphazard way now.
I should have done that with my Elgato prompter. I didn't I now I need to, like, reformat it so I could put the notes back. That's actually so smart. I have it on my other monitor here next to OBS, and there's, like, too much stuff all over the place. I'm, like, looking all over the place when it comes to chat and everything.
Yeah, your eyes move. Yep.
Yeah.
I guess this is now an ad for the Elgato prompter.
I mean, I am partnered with Elgato. It is, like, the first, very nice teleprompter I've seen on the market at an affordable price point, but, it's okay. Get it if you want, or you don't need to. But going now into the creator stuff, and then it's gonna be creators and then kind of like more company structure. It's like the same
Okay.
format as the notes I
Okay,
gave
cool.
you. But my ADHD makes me bounce around a lot, so I had to add the caveat. Trust it may not follow this. It will be close, I hope, unless we get derailed. But going into that, how do you discover creators to reach out to as an influencer manager? And you discovered me. So how did you find me? I think you told me though.
Yeah, I'll start with how I discovered you,
Okay.
and I think it also kind of ties into the big part of
Mhm.
my main answer. I'm terminally online. I hate to say that, but I spend all of my
Much
time,
love, dude. Less than
consuming
three.
social media
Mhm.
content. I would love to say it's work research, but it's also just my hobby. So a big thing is
Research.
personal enjoyment, who I'm watching, who I'm a fan of.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of how I found you. In the peak of quarantine, I was like, I watch a lot of streamers. What would it be like if I streamed? But I had
Mhm.
no clue. I knew nothing about live streaming. I didn't even own a PC at this time. But I would like I followed you for tips and I used your like I think I put in the TikTok search bar like Twitch streaming tips, like something really basic, like a
Uh-huh.
basic search, and like your videos came up. I was like, oh, this is great. And so I've been following you for a couple months at this point, and then we were working on a live streaming workshop for VidCon, and I
Mhm.
was like, oh, I watch this girl, like Kat, like I really like her advice. And my boss was like, okay, put her on the list. And it was, I found you through a simple TikTok search. But so if it's not people that I'm already watching, I
Mhm.
let the algorithm take it away.
Mm.
Who's the algorithm suggesting? If I really like someone, if I'm looking for streamers in particular and I really like someone at the time, I'll go to Twitch Tracker and I'll look at the similar channels and I'll
Mm.
see who, they're spitting out that way. Um, I use actual influencer marketing platforms like Creator IQ and Tagger.
Mm,
They have a
mhm.
couple different ways that they can pull creators, so I can do various search functions. Um, and I put all sorts of instances in. Those mostly pull from like SEO terms. So a big piece of advice is always make sure your bio has a couple keywords that you want to be known for, because that's how these like if I'm looking for female gamers that play cozy games, if you have cozy gaming in your bio, Tagger will push that to me, and that's more likely to get recommended. Um, there's so many parameters that we're searching for when we're looking for specific creators, whether it's specific to the creator, also specific to the audience.
Mhm.
So I can throw something in Creator IQ and Tagger, and it will pull all sorts of search instances. I use marketplaces like Collabster,
Mm,
hashtag paid. Um, I don't use those as often as some brands do in gaming, but I've definitely used hashtag paid a lot. The TikTok creator marketplace was something that I used at Razer. And then honestly, there have been times, like specifically at Razer, where they were like, hey, we need people playing Apex. And I was like, ah. And I would just at different times of day go to the Apex, category,
mhm.
and I'd manually pull people. So it just depends on what we're working on and what we need. Some is really
Ooh.
automated, some's really manual.
I wanna elaborate on a couple of these just because 'cause I'm nosy, and I'm sure if I'm nosy, a lot of people also probably nosy too. So, first on the tags that you're searching for, do you have, like, some set tags that are often looked for that are more favorable to put in your bio? Or is it
Hmm.
just very case by case basis?
I think it's really case by
Okay.
case, and I think it depends on, the brand and product.
Mhm.
So if we're looking, let's say my current role right now, Sonic.
Yeah.
If you're fully a Sonic the Hedgehog creator, put
Mhm.
Sonic in your bio like that. I that is amazing for me. Like I want to see that. When it was things like at Razer, it was very product specific. So if we were working on something for the Viper, V2 Pro, I would pull for FPS players. So FPS was a big like keyword that I used.
Mm.
Cozy gaming, battle station, that was Razer. So, very specific terms. So,
That's so interesting, battle station, because that's not a
that
term that's commonly used among gamers, but I hear it on the company end so much.
Battle station was like in my I never used that word ever
Yeah.
in my life until Razer. And then I was sending 20 emails a day. Like, oh, this battle station setup influencer, blah 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 blah. So what if you have a very specific niche that you want to like, that's what you're trying to hone in on. So if you're a music streamer, if you're and
Mhm.
but specifically piano streamer, very literal keywords. But it varies case by case, and what the campaign is and what the brand is.
Got it, got it. Thank you for that elaboration, because that makes it, like, I feel like more clear for us. Okay, wait, one more question on this one. A
Yeah.
lot of people put variety streamer or variety creator in their bio. Would you recommend against that because it's just too vague?
Actually, no,
Okay,
because at least for me, variety is a
okay.
category that I look for.
Mm,
To me, and this also depends on each influencer manager and every company.
yeah.
To me, variety streamer says I will kind of dabble in whatever I'm interested in. So from a publisher standpoint, variety, you can go look at their profile, see what games they're playing. Are those similar to your games? From like Razor's standpoint, variety to me was like a great search for our streaming gear.
Mhm.
Variety, I felt like they fell more in just chatting. And again, it's very dependent per creator, but that was an actual category that I would search for.
Okay. Then hypothetical, and, like, from your experience, because a lot of people are always very hung up on this. If in a scenario and, like, let's say because I don't want to put you in a position to speak on a company, so, like, hypothetically, if we were working with, like, I don't know, like, you're at a headset company, and you are looking for, or let's say a mouse company, 'cause this makes it a little bit more specific, I guess, but let's say there's 2 creators that you're torn between. One is a variety creator, and one is explicitly an FPS streamer, which would fit better, I think, with like a mouse brand deal, and they are of similar sizes. Would the category be a determining factor?
Not for me.
Okay.
Again, headset is very different. If
Okay.
I'm, if I'm looking at someone, like if I were to like pull up like my, I'm working on a Viper mini signature. This I want an FPS streamer
Mhm.
before I want a variety creator.
Okay.
But if I'm looking at Kitty Kraken, my headset that I'm
Mhm.
wearing right now, again, this is from a tech perspective
Yeah.
and like a hardware perspective, but variety, I feel like variety would probably fit a little bit more
Okay.
than total FPS. I also look when I'm looking, I look at people who say variety streamer and how many hours are you putting into what category, how many, each game. So
Mm.
I will sometimes subcategory variety streamers when I'm doing research.
Okay.
So there's like a second one. So if you're variety, but you lean all cozy games, I've got you in that subcategory now.
Okay.
But if you're looking at a headset, similar size, and it really is a determining factor. Maybe even variety for headset. I think it just, again, I hate saying it depends, but it really depends on the
Yeah, yeah.
product.
I mean, it's always so hard because I'm asking you, like, specific questions, but this situation is so broad because the company could differ, the creator could differ, and it's, like, a super case by case.
I think there's also a ton of the times it's not even the creator and what they play, but like audiences. You could have a
Mm.
variety streamer and an FPS streamer, but even if they're both based in the US, maybe the FPS streamer gets way more, EU viewers.
Mm.
But I need a US audience. Audience plays a huge role in who gets, certain deals and certain opportunities as well.
I just interviewed a creator who is a European streamer, and he was saying how, like, the experience of a European streamer landing sponsorship is much harder than that of a potentially American streamer. Again, because I'm speaking only on American POV, and he's only speaking from a European POV, so there's no way we can kind of like cross check it. But do you feel like that's the case from the back end companies that you've worked with? Again, I mean, because you work with American companies.
Again, it depends so much. Like I feel like I'm just running circles around your questions.
No, you're
I'm
actually giving really good answers because like the circles like gives good explanations as to like how the company and you would arrive at a conclusion.
Yeah, I think it really depends. It depends on what the company is targeting.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of companies, especially American-based companies, want their audiences to be in the United States. They
Mhm.
want to target, and so that's why they choose to work with, US-based creators or creators with a predominantly US audience. I worked a lot with European creators, but it
Mm.
also, the European creators I worked with were English speaking. You get language barriers involved.
Mhm.
Some US based companies still have EU branches of their company, or they hire, agencies to do localized social and like PR and partnerships. So it really depends on what community and which country and geographic target the brand is going for. I feel like brands typically lean more US,
Okay.
um, because that's just where if it's a US company. But if you look at global companies, I worked with people from everywhere at
Mhm.
Razor. I was specifically on a global base. I was a global influencer manager.
Mm.
So,
Got it, got it. Then going off of this as well, this is a theory that I heard, and the theory is that this is like a one-off, but that companies that have branches in different regions. So like I think we were speaking specifically on like ASUS and their Canadian branch or something like that, but that their regional branches or I guess like the branches in different countries actually have a completely separate marketing budget versus the
yes.
American one. Okay. And
Yes.
then given that a lot of companies are like the ones at least that you work with are American-based companies, I'm guessing the American company has the larger budget among the regions most of
It
the time?
most of the time, again,
Okay.
I can only speak for places that I've worked. It really depends, and
Okay.
again, what targets are. Um, by and targets are based on all sorts of things, trends, are people buying these product X, Y, and Z in this
Mhm.
area, even if it's from competitors. There's so much that's analyzed for each region. But in my experience, separate regional places do different regional branches will have a different marketing budget. It's not all one.
Okay. And then Sorry to throw out so many hypotheticals. Another potential hypothetical, because a lot of people are curious about this as well. For a company that that doesn't have any regional branches, let's say and this is an American-based company. Let's say there's like a Canadian creator or a European creator who is interested in working with this company, but there is no regional branch from where they are located in. Is there no hope at all? Is there a chance they could like still land a deal? How would that look
Say
like?
there's no
Okay.
hope.
Okay.
I think again, it depends. I'm gonna hit myself every time I say it depends. I need a different term.
I can't think of a
Right.
better one, so
Yeah, depending on yeah, it really varies. I would say keep trying, especially
okay.
if it's a brand that you're interested in. In my notes for some of your other questions,
Mhm.
like a point that I have is literally like keep trying. Like
Mhm.
it brand deals are so like budgets and every company budgets differently. Like what I'm saying right now could not be relevant at all to any other brands, you know?
Uh-huh.
It varies so much on fiscal years and
Yeah.
how they budget and what they're doing and what their terms are. And so you could pitch yourself to, you know, you could be a European streamer that pitches themselves to an American based company and the influencer manager could ignore you, you know, say not right now.
Mhm.
Try again in 3 more months. Try again in another 2 quarters, you know?
Mhm.
Maybe there's more budget. Maybe there's now a product event that's launching in the EU in 6 months and they need EU creators, you know?
Mhm.
Just keep pushing, like keep pitching yourself. Because even if it doesn't hit the first time, doesn't mean it won't hit another time.
Mhm. That's super valid. I had this with, like, Cookie Run Kingdom where I emailed them and then, like, they never responded, and then I don't remember if I bumped it or not. 6 months later, they wanted to work with me, and it was so out of the blue, but, like,
I have
takes a while.
already like there were creators that pitched me when I first started at Razor in
Yeah.
2022 that I just reached out to this week for like something at my job now. So it's been like
Wow.
2 years, you know, and that's
Mhm.
like people that I thought of like in theory you're someone that like I will always think back to because I've worked with and you know like I think I had reached out, you know, there was something
Mhm.
that came up. I was like, "Oh, maybe we need this." I reached out, it didn't work.
Yeah.
But like I pulled on you from VidCon, you know? And so a big thing is and I'll say this a million times, there's only a couple influencer managers depending on the brand. Some have a bigger team than other. Most influencer managers probably getting 100 to 200 emails of pitches a day,
Mhm.
not also counting internal work and, you know, internal emails.
Mhm.
There's just not enough time in the day to respond to everybody. So like
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't reply, they probably still saw it or and I again can't speak for everyone. Any pitch I've gotten, if I can find a way to save their pitch, whether that's downloading their one sheet or like using their media kit link, I keep a running spreadsheet of every creator I've ever come across, whether I've worked with them. And this is just something I do.
Mhm.
And I have it filtered out. So I have different categories. So I have games and
Wow.
then subcategories or if they're not gamers, you know, if they're lifestyle. And if they've pitched themselves to me that I can save, I'll either save it and then hyperlink out to like the file that I saved or just link to their, you
Mhm.
know, media kit. And so there are people that I can go back to because you know maybe they didn't make sense when I first met them, but now I have budget a year later.
Mhm. Oh, that's really good to know. Wow, that's so interesting. Oh my god. Every time we're talking, I come up with like more questions as we're talking, and we're getting more off script and on script at the same time. Somebody in chat asked, "Will this VOD be live later?" This VOD will be up for the duration that it will exist on my channel, which is 60 days, but it will be cut for YouTube and Shorts. It will be cut into vertical form for all vertical video platforms. Ding. But question that I had then, since you said that you typically receive, and this is from like your experience 100 to like 200 emails a day from creators. What are strategies that creators who are pitching to somebody like you could implement to make their pitch stand out?
I wrote this down. And I want to make
We can
sure I'm
always
giving
circle
you
back too.
okay, okay, I found it. I
Uh,
like so my biggest thing, I'm getting a lot, keep it brief for
mhm,
me. Um I was taught like in my couple business classes, always have an elevator pitch. So
mhm,
if you're pitching to a brand, think of an elevator pitch. So what can you say in the 30 seconds that you have to go up 4 floors and you want to get what you do out there to that person before they get off at the next floor. So for me, the biggest things: name, location, what you do. So battle royale streamer, variety streamer, just chat, if you're not a streamer at all, you're just a TikToker, animator, whatever, the type of creator that you are, something niche or interesting about you. If you have like a really niche community, I had a community of 95% women in the US, like, or a fun fact, like this is, I like when people put something fun and silly that I can remember. Quick audience stats. So, again, 95% female audience, whatever that is. And then the best, link out your stuff. So whether that's a link tree, a one sheet. I've seen really great media kits come through from websites like Pillar. I think it's like pillar.io,
Mhm,
Talent Pitch Pro. Those are a couple websites that I can think of that I get digital media kits.
mhm,
I like when creators start with something silly. Some people, like, I think a lot of people, like, they're like, oh, I'm reaching out to a brand, like I need to be really professional.
mhm,
Like, I professionalism, like, absolutely, but I love, someone sends a meme, a reference, a video. I got, like, when I moved over to Sonic, a couple of the creators that I worked with at Razer, like, reintroduced themselves, and they're like, hey, here's a clip from a Sonic stream I did 4 years ago, and I was like, oh, that's so fun. So as brief as possible, but make it unique to yourself, but get that, core info in there.
got it. And then for subject line, is there anything that a creator could put in there to catch your eye as well?
Um, I'm gonna be honest, I hate jumpy subject lines. They
Okay.
give me anxiety. I like when people just put like their name, especially like if I'm searching for an email from them. So
Mm,
like so Cat Liente cross Sonic, creator pitch. Something really basic so I
mhm,
know what it is that I'm opening. Especially if I'm gonna pull it like if whatever company I'm at, I'll organize my inbox. So I'll pull over all the pitches into a pitches folder.
mhm.
So as for me, making it clear that it's a creator pitch helps me know.
Okay, awesome. That sounds great. What are some things creators could do to win favor with influencer managers? So this is like a little broader than just the email.
Um, okay, I wrote a lot of things down. I think the simplest thing, again, so silly, be a good human. Be really, really
Impossible
nice.
challenge.
Uh, Streamers be nice to influencer managers, challenge level impossible.
No, actually.
Um, I don't know what it is. I think people think we're the brand, and so they get really aggressive and they get
Yeah.
really rude. I've had some really rude creators in my time, and I'm just like, there was one creator I like cried for 2 nights because of like
No
how they talked to me.
way.
And I'm sensitive, so like I know not every influencer manager is like that, but people can be really rude. So the nicest thing is just
Ew.
treat influencer managers with respect. Yes, they're on the brand side, but a lot of us work in this field because we love creators and we
Mhm,
want to see creators succeed. I want to advocate for creators. I want to see creators get paid. I want them to do great work. I want them to win. But I'm also a human. So the first thing is be nice. Other things, when pitching, have all your info condensed into one space. So I think
mm,
media kits, huge. I'm a big fan of the digital media kits. I know some people prefer like an actual printable one sheet, kind of like a resume.
mhm,
Those are great, and I can save those and I can put those into a file. But I keep that spreadsheet of creators that I come
mm.
across, and I can just click.
Oh, wait, I think it lagged out.
Yeah,
Okay.
there we go.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, you were just
Spectrum,
saying that
am
you
I
could
right?
you were just saying that you could click the digital media kit?
Oh, yes.
Mhm,
Being able to click is super nice because it keeps everything updated.
mhm,
I love seeing, samples of other brand deals or other
mm,
brand work that you've done. If you haven't done paid or gifted brand work, videos that emulate what you might do if you had like a product focused, those are really great to put top of mind. I like people that follow up consistently, but not too much. My suggestion is once a quarter. I think a
Mhm,
quarterly check-in, especially since businesses, are still in the planning phase each quarter. At the I suggest at the end of each quarter ahead of the next new one. So
mhm,
like reach out in December for quarter 1, reach out in March for quarter 2, That's when they start planning. So pop in, or if you do something really really cool, follow up. Like I want to see creators win. So if you've had like an awesome subathon, like send me an email that's like, "Hey, I just did this subathon, this was the viewership. We had this awesome like hype train moment. See clip here." That's a really fun way to follow up, keep top of mind.
mhm,
Um, what creators are doing, and you can really see their creativity in those fun big accomplishments. If a company that you like has launched or announced something really cool that you really want to work with, that's a great time to reach out. And I think, win favor. Hey, I saw you launched this headset. I think this would be great. I'd love to try it. That way the company knows the specific product that you want to work for. Making FaceTime at events if you can go. I know not everyone has the opportunity to go to events like
mhm,
TwitchCon and PAX and stuff like that, but if you can, if and you have that opportunity, go up to the booths, ask, is your influencer or partnership manager here? I love the creators that I get to see at events. I get so excited. Like TwitchCon is so fun for me. It feels like summer camp. I get to
aw,
see, people that I worked with. And then again, I those people are just naturally top of mind to me because I'm like, oh my gosh, like so and so. Like one of my favorite like creators is like John on TikTok, I think he streams too, but like I saw him at TwitchCon and like running across like the party to like see him. I was like, yay! And like I was just so happy.
aw,
And like that then when I'm like, oh, I need so and so, I can think of that fun moment. So
mhm,
things like that. Again, I know not everybody has that opportunity. So if you can't go to events, if you can find influencer managers and they have a public social presence, follow them, engage with their stuff. I'm not saying like kiss up to them on personal socials, but like I love, we reply to stuff cat like and I'm
mhm.
like that always keeps I'm like, "Oh, cat, like cat's a person." I'm
I
very ADHD.
exist.
I'm very ADHD, out of sight, out of mind.
No,
And
I
so
feel you.
so it's like, but I love when creators reply to my pictures of my cats with their cats. I'm like, ah, and it builds that personal relationship. Obviously there's still a business relationship there.
Mhm,
But the more you get to know them, it's just again, top of mind is the big thing. And again, be nice. Influencer managers are just people. There's probably only 1 to 2 influencer managers working on a brand at an agency. They're doing the best they can. They're not ignoring you on
mhm,
purpose. They're not ghosting you. It's a hard job to be in, which sounds kind of silly,
mhm.
but that's the ramble of a bunch of things.
No, this was so helpful. That's the thing that's, like, blows my mind too, and I feel like this is, like, something that people don't understand unless you've actually worked in, like, not, like, customer service, but, like, a customer or person interacting job where you don't realize, like, how freaking mean some people are. It's insane. It's like, do you think you're gonna get a partnership after, like, cussing out the partnership manager in the email?
I the most insane, like probably the most insane story that is ever any creator where I don't want to say like,
Mhm.
I have a list of people I'll never work with.
But, I mean,
Um
like, in the back of your mind, it's kinda
But in
like you
the
get the ick, you
there's
know?
there's there, yeah, and I got the ick. I had tweeted, this is I disclaimer, this might sound a little dark, but it's needed for the story. I tweeted that I was diagnosed with my cancer because
Oh.
I was like, "Hey guys, a little bit offline,
Mhm.
just give me some time." I had a creator DM me then on Discord after seeing my tweet, was like, "Hey, saw your tweet, but you never replied to like my email. Can you get back to me before your leave?"
What?
And I was like, ah, like I don't know what
So,
to
like,
do.
yeah, F if you have cancer, like, respond to me.
Hey,
What?
like, sorry you just found
Oh,
out like really terrible life altering news. can you hit me back on email? I was like, it's gonna be
Yeah,
a no
never
from me,
again.
dog.
What?
Like, and so, and like, I don't know, influencer managers, we talk like people, if someone's really, really mean to someone. So just be nice. You wouldn't, hopefully you wouldn't be mean to a cashier. You
Mhm.
wouldn't be mean to someone interviewing you for a job. And like, that's kind of what you should think of influencer managers. They're kind of like a hiring manager. You wouldn't go into an interview and cuss out the hiring
Yeah,
manager
because 'cause you'll
when
never get a
asking.
job.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly, like, insane to it's also so funny because I do, like, the streamer advice, I talk to people all the time about, like people are like, "How do I get sponsorships?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you outreach to the influencer manager." And they're like, "What's that?" Like, they just think it's, like, a company, like, just company, and it's like, "No, there's human beings on the other end of the email."
There are human beings, and like they're getting a lot of emails, and so
Mhm,
I think that's, like I said, a big thing. Be consistent in reaching out and
mhm.
following up. Excuse me, I have the hiccups now.
It's all
Um,
good, I'm, like, drinking I'm trying not to, like, make it sound when you
I
drink
know
the
I'm like trying to get my water in from my fake Stanley cup. I need to drink more
resourceful, I
water.
like it.
But yeah, there's a lot happening. There's one or two people. No one, like I said earlier, no one is ignoring you on purpose.
Mhm.
If they are, there's a bunch of other like
Yeah.
there's never there's a million companies in the world. Like you will find someone that has a great partnerships manager and someone that you like working with. So, it can be a bummer that your favorite company didn't reply.
Mhm.
Keep reaching out and then, move on to the next one. So,
Here's some advice that I give people, and I could be full of shit, but let me know if I'm correct. I tell people that if they're outreaching to influencer managers to outreach during office hours, as in Monday through Friday, like around 9 to 5, because that's when y'all are checking your emails. Is that correct? Or am I lying to people?
I mean, I would say that's,
Okay.
you're more likely to be seen. I'm still going to read emails that
Yeah.
come after office hours because, the next day that I log on, I'll go through it and read everything.
Mhm.
The chances of, a pitch popping up and like me seeing it from like a notification is way greater during the day. And
Mhm.
then it's at the top of my inbox. If you send it at night and then it gets buried, it'll take me longer to get to it.
Mhm.
So I would say that's very influencer manager specific, but it would work
Mhm.
for me.
Nice. I'm not lying to people. People are asking, would this apply to sponsor and partnerships? Correct. For those of you guys that just came in because we just got rated, I'm interviewing Squidney or Sydney, and they are an influencer manager. So we're asking about, the behind their POV of how us creators can get more sponsorships and how we can win favor with influencer managers. Because also a lot of people don't even know this job exists, which is like a lot of creators that is, which is really funny to me.
I think it's also a really kind of new role. I
Mhm.
think not every company will have an influencer manager in specific. I feel like a lot of gaming companies have really moved
Yeah.
towards everybody having an influencer manager. Really big brands that do a lot of influencer marketing do. But some of it is like the social media manager is also the influencer manager. So they're doing social media management, community management, and influencer management. Sometimes it's the PR team.
Mhm.
So it really varies who you're working with. So that also will play a role in, how fast people respond. If someone's doing, like I said, if someone is the social community and influencer manager, they have three jobs that they're
Yeah.
doing. So give them a little bit more time. But
Mhm. What are here, I'll ask this in a separate order. Do you have any advice first for creators looking to get brand partnerships?
yes, I do. So I will go bullet point by bullet point, and
Okay.
if you have a question, stop me.
Okay, perfect. Because a
I
lot of
have
times,
as
like, when you talk, it's so good that I'm like, "Oh my god, now I have a new question," but then, like, my ADHD is also all over the place, so I immediately forget the
I know
question.
I'm just like reading. I'm
Okay.
reading my little list that I prepared. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I stop so you have time.
Okay.
Um, this is how I would approach it, and this is kind of how I'm doing. I have like a TikTok that I'm trying to revive. I have like a micro following on there.
Mhm.
So like I'm currently applying these things to like find some
Okay.
partners for my TikTok too. But what I did is create a target list of companies you want to work for and write them all down. So if, your favorite companies, companies you've seen people work with and have great success, places that you genuinely use their products from. List all of these down. In my opinion, I would say start with the smaller companies. So, maybe not the Amazons and the Nikes of the world, but, smaller brands that have a little bit smaller teams and eventually work your way up. So a great, like if we're using Razor as an example, I always looked for people that had done previous tech work before.
Mhm.
Not like it didn't always play a factor, but it was easier for me to
Let
determine
them
if a
eat cake,
partnership or
Catley
a
cake,
campaign would
Catley
make
cake,
sense if
Catley
I had
cake,
seen
Catley cake,
how
Catley
similar
cake.
posts had performed in the past, even if it wasn't, a partnership. So
Mhm.
if Razer is your dream company, make a couple videos talking about headsets that you suggest, your favorite headset and why, an unboxing of a headset you just bought, maybe find a smaller brand that, does gifted partnerships. But so create this target list and then start smaller company to bigger company. And from there, find all of the emails that you can for contacts at these companies. You have a great list. I personally use your list that you have on like coffee. Like
Really?
I have that saved. I have you linked in my Notion. Like you are in my yeah. So I think your list is awesome. But like even if people don't have access to this list,
It's
it's
free,
pretty
you guys
easy.
should have access to it.
It's free. But also tip her because it's a lot of work. uh
Can't fund my boba.
exactly. And if the email's not on there, you can do a little bit of digging. It'll take you, at most 10 minutes. It on the website, look for keywords like partnerships, sponsorship opportunities, collab opportunities. If it's nowhere on the website, sometimes companies will have like link trees in their social media bios. They'll have their collab, email. If you can't find a general email, this is a little insane, but I've done this with jobs. Go to LinkedIn, look up the company's name, search influencer manager, So if you want to work with Razor, go to LinkedIn and search Razor, go to their people, search for people that list influencer, partnership, PR, whatever that company is. See if you can find their email. It's a little crazy, but like put yourself out there, do the work to find the brands.
Mhm.
Um, and then reach out and pitch yourself. Send an email and put yourself out there. Lots of companies do research and do outreach on their own, but we also do like some of that comes from have you pitched to us before, are you top of mind, are you in our database?
Mhm.
And so from there just send it off to each brand. Put yourself out there as much as you can, make sure you're staying top of mind, kind of do everything else that I had said about building a rapport with an influencer manager. Lots of brands will say, no, not this time, maybe another time, follow up in 6 months,
Mhm.
keep that list, mark on your list, this person said not now, follow up, this person asked for more info, make sure this is a live list that you're running off of and you're keeping updated and like, keep list of who your contacts are and then just keep following up. I think if you're really new to partnerships, gifted partnerships are a great way to start, especially build a relationship with a brand. I know everybody wants to get paid, and like this is how we're all trying to make livelihoods.
Mhm.
But brands also need to see proof of success. So if you're really new to brand partnerships and you've never had a sponsorship of any type, reach out and say, hey, can I get a headset in exchange for one TikTok? And if that TikTok, even if it doesn't perform perfectly, if it looks good, if it's up to the quality of, the brand, they're more likely to reach out again since they've now built that relationship with you.
Mhm.
So again, I know we want to get paid and the whole purpose is advocate for yourself that you do. But if it's a new brand and its partnerships are new to you, start small. So start with a really small gifted campaign, work your way up. Brands really need to see, like I said, they want to see data. They want to see your
Mhm.
engagement, your impressions. Depending on the scope of campaign, they want to see conversions. So any data that you can have available to show them, again, for someone that's just starting out and hasn't done this before, you probably won't have, proof of conversions. Something I've always said, Tell a brand how many Linktree, like link in bio clicks you get.
Mhm,
Linktree will show you how many people click your Linktree. That's a pretty good indicator. Someone they were interested in you enough to want to see what your other socials are. That's a conversion metric, in my opinion.
mhm,
So find any data that you can show that's like, hey, this is why I'd be a perfect fit.
mhm,
Um, and yeah, don't be discouraged if a brand says no. Keep trying. Like I've said a million times, it's all about timing. It's all about when the marketing budget hits, when it's open to spend. Some brands only get, they might have, let's say $1 million, but they might only have the green light to spend 500,000 at the time.
mhm.
So just keep following up. But I didn't,
Ooh.
I didn't stop. I didn't stop. I just kept talking.
No, it's okay. I
I said
have
I was gonna stop.
It's all good because this is all, like, really, really, really great info. Plus, like, if you don't stop, that means it cuts better for TikTok. Because if we keep going back and forth, then it cuts a little bit more erratically for my poor editor that's gonna have to go through all of this. But, I have now even more questions after we've talked. So, the first question is, how would somebody who, let's say the company responded back, like, you or just any other influencer manager hypothetically responded back, and they are looking to be paid, but they were offered a gifted partnership, what are some things that that person could do to turn this gifted campaign into a paid one?
I think there's a couple things
Mhm.
that you can do, and it really, I'm not even gonna say it depends. Um,
But it does
if
depend.
so but it does depend. So let's say, you reach out and, in this hypothetical, has this person done sponsorship
Yes, let's say
opportunities before?
hypothetically
Okay.
this person has gotten partnerships, I guess maybe to the company, it's not clear whether it's paid or gifted, but this person has proof of work, basically.
Work. Okay. Okay, perfect. I would say, if when I had to tell a lot of people, "Hey, I I don't have money right now,
Yeah.
but if is there any gear on the website? Would you like to look at like a barter or even just a gifted, no strings attached. I send you products, you post if you
Mhm,
want to." One the way that one person responded that has really resonated and I've kept with me
mhm,
is they replied and they are like, "Thank you so much. Like I really appreciate that you would even consider offering X, Y, and Z. If I could explain my rates a little bit further, I'd like to say, and then they broke down their rates for me. They
mm,
said this is, and they had their rates. A lot of creators are scared to send rates, and we could talk about this later. I think
mhm,
there's two ends where it's
yeah.
like brands can try to underpay you, or like
Yeah.
I feel like it's the chicken or the egg, like that battle back and forth for, do you pitch your rates first or do you
Mhm,
ask for budget first? Brands will always have a set budget, but we I could always ask for more, so just tell me your rates. Like,
mhm,
for me, it was, if people were honest about what they were asking for cost-wise, it helped me be honest and say yes or no. So
okay.
this girl said, she was like, "I appreciate this gifted opportunity. If I could, I'd like to say, I charge this, and the last time I charged for a TikTok like this, I saw, and she gave me, again, this is all data.
Mhm,
I saw a 5% increase in video views than my normal like unbranded content. I had a 6% engagement rate, whatever. And she just explained how well the branded campaign performed. And she was like, and this brand has now asked me back for three more. And that then made me really pull back and go, okay, one, this person understands the metrics, they understand what we're looking for from a brand perspective, but they've now put their rates on the table and I can really say, "Hey, does this fit into my campaign?"
mhm,
Cuz people when people reach out and they're like, "Hey, like what's your budget? I'd love to put something together." Budgets vary, and a
mhm.
budget can also be really big. I'm not going to tell someone, "Hey, my budget's $1 million,"
Yeah.
because that's $1 million for 30 to 50 creators.
Mhm,
But if you come to me with your rates on a table, whether it's a pricing menu, I love when people have pricing menus.
mhm,
Again, I know that's very specific per people. Rates vary based off of usage rights, how
yeah.
it's there's all sorts of stuff, but a very base pricing menu is really great for me.
Mhm,
And so yeah, she just kind of defended why she was charging. She showed me examples of success and I was like, I like this. And I didn't have an opportunity to move forward. But this is now someone that I have worked with again,
Mhm,
like I liked the way that she talked, I liked how she handled herself.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it's really just, pu push back one time, don't push back a ton. I also think it's how the brand talks to you. I've seen
Yeah,
some, like, clips online of people, they're like, "Hey, I'd love to work," a brand reaches out, they're like, "Oh, I'd love to work with you." The creator responds, they're like, "Oh, great, I charge 500 for a TikTok, does that work?" And then the brand comes back and they say something maybe a little bit sassy. Some brands can be terrible.
yeah,
And then that like goes around on Twitter. If a brand is obviously trying to take advantage of you and you can read that in an email, it's not worth it.
yeah.
But if you could tell it's like a logical back and forth, I would always just say straight up, like, hey, I was very open. And I think sometimes my bosses were like, Sydney, I'd be like, I don't have money right now. Sorry guys. Like I just don't have it. And so so
Mhm.
push back once if it doesn't work, try again in 3 months.
Got it, got it. That's so great to know. So, more questions. Oh my god. This is all so great. Oh my I feel like I'm getting, like, all my life's questions answered with you right now. So, we just mentioned the chicken and the egg with the rates, the creator sending their rates versus you as a brand giving your rates. Which do you prefer?
I prefer people coming with their rates on
Okay.
the table. Um Because like I said, we brands will typically have a set budget that
Yeah.
not typically, they will. Brands
Yeah.
will know how much money they have to spend. Like that
Mhm.
is predetermined months, years, however long in advance. But if I know your rates, I'm not gonna ask you to do something I know I can't afford.
Mhm.
And I also, I feel like there's always the argument, well, like, hey, like what if a brand has more money and you're undercharging yourself?
Yeah.
I also feel like I've worked in the industry enough. I know if someone's undercharging me, and I come from a place of advocating for the creator. So I've told people before, I'm like, hey, you should charge another 200. Um,
Oh.
Not every influencer manager works like that. I think I come from a little bit of a different background having worked directly with a creator before,
Mhm.
and like I used to script and produce brand deals that they did for, Mattel and Elmer's.
Mhm.
So I knew how much work into it. Like I know what goes into a brand deal. So like I'm not of the mindset that I'm trying to like pinch pennies, but they're definitely at the end of the day the influencer manager is acting on behalf of the brand.
Yeah.
But I think it's just easier to come forward with your rates. A brand will know whether or not they can afford you. If they, and even if, maybe they have a little bit more money than you're asking for, maybe then they buy two TikToks
Mhm.
instead. It's just easier to put it out there. Um, Brands typically aren't going to tell you how much their budget is. So even if you're like, hey, like I said, if you're like, hey, what's your budget for this? No brand is going to tell you that. They might give you a rough estimate. So I
Mhm.
am of the if someone comes to you with an offer, I think that's totally fair. There have been
Okay.
times where I do have a very specific, I'm like, I only have $2,000.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to try to only reach out to creators that I think charge $2,000. Prices might vary.
Mhm.
And so if someone comes and they're like, hey, I want you to do these deliverables for X amount of money, if you like, let's say someone came to you, Kat, and they're like, hey, we want 3 TikToks and we're
Mhm.
charging $3,000. And you're like, oh, well, actually, and you're like, oh, that's low for me.
Yeah.
I would always go back and just say, hey, like, thank you so much. Again, kind of like the pushing back on the organic opportunity. Um, I would love to work with you. I love your products. The Stanley Cup is my favorite water
Yeah.
bottle right now. But I see a 6%, in conversion rate when I do brand deals. So I do charge 3,500. Do you have a little bit of wiggle room in your budget?
Mhm.
Something like that. Just advocate for yourself. I know that's a question later.
Yeah.
But advocating for yourself is huge. Know your worth, know your value. There are websites and like look before you put your rates together, lots of reading and research that you can do online about like industry standard.
Mhm.
Take a look at it, take a look at CPM, learn about CPM, learn about CPV, have a little bit of an understanding of those kind of terms so you know what you're charging. That way you're aligning your expectations with the brand.
Mhm. No, this is perfect. A lot of creators are afraid this is why they undercharge. One of the reasons they undercharge is okay, this is, like, dumb, but it makes sense in the mind of creators who think this way, and myself included when I first started, is we're afraid of pitching a rate that's too high. What do you have to say to a creator who has that fear?
Same advice I gave about applying for a job you're underqualified for, still send it.
Mhm,
If you think you're charging too high, you're probably charging the right amount of money. Um, and if a brand is going to, I'm going to word this carefully. If a brand isn't going to work with you because they didn't like the quote, like the price you gave them,
mhm.
you're not going to want to work for the price that they were going to offer you. So it's
Mm.
probably, if you want, if like let's use a standard TikTok as $500. Like let's
Okay.
just say that's our standard
Yeah.
number right now. That's industry standard. Anybody's TikTok is $500. And you reach out to a brand and you're like, hey, my rate is $500, and the brand comes back and they're like, gee whiz, we only pay $100. So sorry, you're probably not going to want to work for that $100 because you assign that $500 value for a reason, because you know how long your content takes.
Mhm,
You priced it that way, and you've determined that's a fair rate for what you want to be paid. So you're probably not going to want that $100. And even if you do, even if the brand comes back and says, hey, that's above our budget, you can always reply and say, hey, well, what is within your budget?
mhm,
Like if I come down to 250, is that more? You know, negotiation is a 50% of what I do in a day. Influencer managers kind of expect you to push back on price. So I say shoot your shot, send it. Uh, and the brands that you want to work with and you align with and you will have a positive experience working with will respond well to that. But that also is, do your research,
mhm,
read. You can Google, like if you go to Google right now, you type in 2024 industry standard influencer marketing. They will tell you baselines. If
mhm,
you have 1 to 1,000, 10,000 followers, this is how much you should be charging. Typically, if you're gonna give it a very basic, math, 1 cent per view. Every, specific niches vary a little bit more. Kids, if you have a younger audience, you can charge a little bit more because kids are a prime audience. If you have like a tech community, you probably charge a little bit more because your audience has more buying power, more spending power. So 1 cent per view isn't a perfect judge, but
mhm.
I think that's a good starting point. Base it off of a 30-day average. If you have a skill set and your TikToks, maybe they don't get a ton of views, but you have a really, really, really good skill set in VFX. And so it's going to take you 3 hours to edit your 20-second ad. Give yourself an hourly rate that you want to be charged. How much are VFX? Like all the work that you're putting into a TikTok, assign a value to that.
Mhm.
And you can find all of that online. So if you take a night to research what those going rates are, you can pull together a price that's pretty fair.
Got it, got it. Talking about, how influencer managers expect pushback, what about when they send out offers? So when you or the brand is immediately reaching out to the creator for the first time, it's like, "Hey, hypothetically, we would like to pay you $1,000 for a TikTok video." Do you expect pushback on that offer as well?
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
I fully expect pushback. Is pushback always justified? No. But again, if you can defend why you're pushing back, again, hey, Sydney, thank you so much for this offer. I'd love to work on this product. It's going to take me a little bit more time to put this together. Can we come up in price? Can
Mhm.
we go down in deliverables?
Uh-huh.
Maybe it's, yeah, you're asking for 3 TikToks, but I have a really strong audience on YouTube too. What if we do 2 TikToks and a YouTube short, and that gets you into the rate? Like I expect people to negotiate. Obviously, in a perfect world, influencers will just accept the rate, and we move in, and that makes it super easy.
Mhm.
But it's business. Influencer managers, partnerships managers, they know it's business. most people at this point understand
My
that
mouth is full of balls right
it's
now.
a livelihood. The
Mhm,
term creator economy exists now because there has been so much work around influencers that there is a full economy. There's an entire entertainment industry around creators now.
mhm.
So if there is someone on behalf of the brand working for influencers, they probably know you do this for a living. Um, but I think there's a lot of factors that come into play. Like this is a note that I had for another question, but like influencer managers don't work in a silo. I There are lots of people above me. I have
Mhm.
a manager. That manager has a director. There's a VP of marketing. There's a chief marketing, there's so many heads that are above you. And so, you could push back and say, "Hey, I want, 750." And I could take that and my manager could approve, but maybe my director doesn't. So, it's business at the end of the day. It's
Mhm.
relationship management, but it's also business. So I expect pushback. Don't be scared to push back on offers. No brand is going to think differently of you. And again, if that brand does, probably not a brand you're going to want to work with in the long run.
Got it. This is so great. Like, people need to hear this because I feel like a lot of people aren't willing to push back because they're afraid of being perceived a different way, etcetera.
Like kind of like I said, I really think if you think of partnerships as applying for a job.
Yeah.
Like if when you apply for a job, most of the time the job will list a pay range in there. And I mean that depends on if the state requires, but in
Mhm.
California has to list a salary range.
Mm.
So if the job is, you can earn between 40,000 and 60,000 a year. And let's say you were like, "Hey, I was making 48,000 at my last job. I'm due for a promotion. I really think at this point with my skill set, I'm valued at 55,000." And then, let's say you get offered the job and HR comes and they're like, we're going to offer you 52,000." Like you're gonna take a moment, you're gonna think, "Hey, is that extra 3,000 something I want to fight for?"
Mhm.
And if it is, you're probably gonna negotiate your salary because this is how you're paying your bills.
Mhm.
And like I've negotiated my salary at every job that I've been. I have said, "Hey, this is why I'm worth X amount of dollars. This is why I want to be paid this." And if we either have a discussion or they say, "Yeah, I think that's fair." Like you ask for most interviews will also say, "What's your salary range that you're expecting?" And you say, "I want 55,000."
Mhm.
So you're saying I want 55,000 in a job interview. There's no reason you shouldn't ask for 500 when you're asking to do a job for a brand.
That's so valid. So valid.
So you have to know your value. And again, I know that then gives the chicken and the egg conversation that so many people have where it's like, "Hey, like I don't want to say this, but like know your value. This might sound a little firm, but like if these conversations are hard to have, maybe you need to spend a little bit more time researching and learning and then start reaching out for deals. These conversations, they're scary and they're tough. And I have anxiety. Like trust me, I wake up every morning and the horrors are endless. I think about and I'm like, I have to send an email and I get so nervous, but I like it's my job. And so if you really want to make good money as a creator and you want to be an influencer full time, it's your job. So you're gonna have uncomfortable conversations and you're gonna have like you're going to feel like they're uncomfortable. They
Mhm.
shouldn't be uncomfortable, but like you will feel like asking for your value is scary. And if it's like something if you can't do it, practice. Send emails to your friends, practice sending blank emails to made up emails, or send to brands that you don't think will reply so
Mhm.
you can at least take that moment to do it. um but you have to take it very seriously because it is your job if you want it to be your full-time job.
Mhm. I love this. Just one question on, like, a numerical thing, because this was something that I actually don't know the answer to because I haven't found this online, but you were talking about this is, like, now circling back a while ago. We're talking about, like, a link in bio and then using the metric of, like, how many impressions or, like, clicks that it received. What's a good percentage given somebody's engagement rate or,
I
like,
have
size?
It kind of depends on size
Okay.
again, but it depends. If you're, it, industry standard is a 1 to 5% engagement rate
Mhm.
is what we're targeting.
Mm.
1% is pretty common. If someone has an engagement rate of less than 1%, that's just someone's personal social media account, like that's
Yeah, yeah.
probably not something you want to work with.
Mm.
I would say for like someone with a big following, 1 to 3% is the sweet spot. Micro creators will always have, I feel like, a bigger engagement rate. They'll
Mhm.
see, 10 to 15%. I'm of the impression 3% is kind of my sweet spot for everything. If you hit 3%, I think that's, shows that there's enough engagement there. But every brand is different.
Mhm.
Somebody might want a highly, highly engaged creator. Um, and that just, that depends. Are you, is the goal sales? They want that engagement. They want those potential conversions. If it's more awareness, 1% is fine, as long
Mhm.
as they're getting views. If
Yeah.
their, CPV is really, really low. But 3% is my sweet spot. If I wanted the perfect creator, 3%.
Ooh, good. Going back on creators, this is something I didn't put in the notes, but the people were asking about it, and I think it's a really good question. Um, a common theory that people have, and they're always asking about this. They're like, people are always asking, what is the minimum following and size that a creator needs to be to reach out for
There's no,
spots?
there's not one. There's not one. And I know I could say that and everyone will be like, that's a lie. You want 10,000. There's genuinely not one. Obviously, big brands want to see big numbers. And in a perfect world, every company wants the big creators. They want that's I think TikTok Shop is a really weird kind of perfect example. Some products that are selling out and going viral are happening from accounts with 5 followers.
Yeah.
It just gets picked up. Um, I don't think there's a minimum. I think you should, if you believe in your content and you believe in what you do, and you have the knowledge and the quality. I would say it's not a minimum follow account, but it's kind of like a knowledge threshold. So again, if you understand enough about mm, you don't have to be a marketing genius. I didn't go to business school. Like I can't it feels kind of, hypocritical to be like you need to know marketing, but
Mhm.
know the basics, know your terms, know what you need. There's lots of great articles online that top, you Google whatever your question is, the first 5 articles probably answer. And I've probably read and gotten my info from those too. But have that knowledge threshold and have a quality standard.
Mhm.
Um, as long as it looks good, you know how to edit. It doesn't look like it was filmed on a Motorola flip phone, like, and also
Not the
know
full
your
phone.
ability, like know your ability. Don't reach out and offer to do a ton of videos if you're not a good editor. And I don't mean that mean because like anybody can learn to be an editor, but like pick up on these skills. So
Mhm.
I would say it's a ability threshold more so than a following count. Obviously, the more followers you have, the higher
Yeah.
payment you will get. But like UGC is huge right now. If we're talking, which is an entirely different beast, but like if we're talking UGC alone, you can have 0 followers as long
Mhm.
as you know how to produce content. So if you know the brand and you know what you're doing, send an email. There's no minimum.
Awesome. That's what I keep trying to tell people and no one listens. But well, not like no one listens, but people just it kinda goes it's hard to believe. Hypothetical, not me throwing out more hypotheticals. But so let's say there's a creator and it's like a brand new account. Like this account has like maybe 5 followers, 10 followers, but they have like insane production value. Hypothetically, let's say it's somebody's secondary account potentially. And they're looking to get a partnership for the secondary account, and they do have very good production value, like, it looks very well done. Maybe they had a background in videography. Could they potentially look for a paid deal, or would it kind of where would also the line between paid and gifting draw in this scenario?
A little bit of both. I think if you're, and again, it depends on what you're offering. If you're offering UGC and
Mhm.
you're offering usage rights across the brand socials,
Yeah.
they can boost it, they can whitelist it on TikTok. You can absolutely ask for money, especially if you have,
Mm,
a background in that. But if you run a secondary account that has 5 followers and you're not offering the brand any usage rights, they can't organically repost, they can't paid post, like nothing.
mhm.
Brand's probably not going to pay for that because five, like they don't.
Yeah.
So if you're smaller, I would really look into usage rights. It's a big beast, but like look into kind of that UGC offering the ability to make content for their profiles.
Mhm,
Um, so I guess maybe I'm changing my answer a little bit. I would say from if you're looking for content to live on your profile, like you want to make content for your profile and you want to use your audience,
mhm.
I would say the threshold probably starts at about 5,000 for
Okay.
me and where I've worked. UGC 0.
Mm,
Um and so it's also, know what you're offering. If you're offering a organic, TikTok only on your profile, I'm probably not going to pay for someone with 5 views, but if they have great quality and maybe it's going to get picked up by the algorithm, I might gift.
mhm.
So, and again, it's another it depends, but don't let your I guess the moral is don't let your follower count shy away. You probably, if you're smaller, unfortunately, you will see more rejections than you will see yeses.
Mhm.
But I think like a really fun example, which is a little bit different from gaming, but there was I don't know why I started seeing these, but like people when they would do their bachelorette trips,
Mm.
these girls would reach out to brands and they'd be like, "Hey, I'm hosting a bachelorette trip for my 10 friends. Can you send me 10 pieces of PR to include in our bags?" And I was seeing all of these brands like send people with 300 followers PR packages. And again, these are gifted opportunities,
Yeah.
but like endless brands were sending and then they would make TikToks like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much to this brand. Like, I have no followers and they sent this." And then those videos were going viral. Or like not viral, but they were
Yeah,
getting
getting,
views and they
like,
were
good
getting
views.
pushed. And then those people, built small followings. And so like I just did the same thing. Again, I have a dormant TikTok channel. I have
Mhm,
70,000 followers. I think at my peak, my engagement rate sat at about 3.5%. So pretty average for
mhm.
my following count. Um, I haven't made a legitimate video in a really long time, but my friends and I are in a step chat, like on a walking challenge. And I reached out to a bunch of brands because I was like, I want to get us prizes. Like I want,
Oh,
like fun gift
fun!
bags. And so I reached out to these brands. I made same thing. I made a list on like an Excel doc of all the brands. I found their emails, spent a lot of time on LinkedIn looking up people's names. And I just sent pitches and I was like, "Hey, I'm doing this walking challenge. This is the premise of the challenge. I'd love to, build out a prize for with including your thing. Would you be willing to send me anything? If you do, I'm happy to work off of a gifted campaign, but it's because I'm trying to build my profile back up. But I was
Mhm,
like, if you are willing to send, happy to put together one TikTok for you." And I was very clear, like dormant TikTok channel, but like I'll bring it back. The viewers are there.
mhm.
And I've got some socks coming. I've got some electrolyte like packet. Like
Ooh,
I've like already had a couple brands like reach out. But again, I was like, they don't care about my friends. Like my friends don't have TikToks. It's not like I'm reaching out and I'm like,
yay!
"Hey,
Yeah.
offline TV and I are doing a walking challenge." Like I'm like, "Hey, it's my friends in my group chat." And they're
Mhm,
like, "Yeah." And I haven't even had any brands like be like, "Yeah, you need to do a video." They're just sending stuff. So send the email. Doesn't hurt.
shoot
Worst
your
they do
shot.
is worst they do is say no or don't reply. And then
Mhm.
again, you follow up in 3 more months.
That's so well put together. Oh my god, that's so cute, though. I'm glad that they're, like, all sending stuff. And the step challenge
Yeah.
sounds so fun.
Oh my gosh. If any side note, if anyone wants to get your steps in, make yourself a step challenge. It gamifies walking and it makes it so fun because
That's
I'm
me with
like,
my
oh,
Pokemon Go right now. I got back into it. Oh my god.
it's yeah. My friends are really aggressive. It's like someone will be like, "Oh, I just passed you, Sydney," and then I'm like, "Oh," so then I like go outside and I'm like, "Gotta get 500 steps."
Gotta
So
get my
that's
steps
a,
in.
that's a side note, but yeah,
Mhm.
shoot your shot. Worst they do is say no.
Perfect. Okay, let's see. I think we covered all my questions I have in the influencer section. So, I don't wanna, like, go too long, I don't wanna hostage you forever, as much
Oh,
as I
you're
would
good.
like to milk you for all the information I can get, but I wanna touch on some company behind the scene questions and answer as much as you can and just you know, obviously, you can be vague on the company, I'm just speaking kinda, like, generally on, like, practices that you've possibly seen. These are, like, questions and maybe some theories that I have, but so how does the budgeting for influencer marketing work behind the scenes at companies? Like you said, they'll present you with a budget of X amount of money. How do you, as the influencer manager, divvy this budget up among the creators?
Ah, it varies.
New word.
New word unlocked. Yeah, it really does.
Okay.
So let's let's say, and I this is very
Mhm.
hypothetical. Any of my employers, please do not. I am not
Or
leaking
random
trades.
numbers
We are.
pull out of our butts.
I am raking up random scenarios.
Mhm.
I would like to put that on the record. Um, it it's a lot more complicated than you think.
Okay.
So let's say in this dream scenario, I work at a computer company. I sell laptops. Um, there it could be a marketing, the marketing realm, the marketing pillar. They say, okay, Sydney, you have for the entire year 1.5 million for influencers. What do you do with that? First thing would probably be to break it down by quarters, either
Mhm.
evenly or knowing what your product roadmap is. Some companies will have zero spend in certain quarters if they don't have any products launching. If you're at a company that's putting something out often, you'll evenly divide it up. So, busiest times will be product launches or like product refreshes, game launch, game announce, things like that. So, it depends on your marketing calendar. Um, and you most of the time are not able to spend any more than what's given to you. You can
Mhm.
sometimes make a request. There were times where I was like, "Hey, this is really cool. I need a little bit more money." You can call it fundraising, what have you. You go to different departments, you ask for more. It really depends on the company. And then yeah, so it's you split it up based on your calendar. You then look at what regions are you targeting. If it's a US based company, you're going to put 100% of your budget into US creators or US audiences.
Mhm.
If you're given a different, typically these things are determined by upper management. So, like, if you have the US and the EU big three, those are what I'm targeting.
Mhm.
I will then find a way to divide that up based on what we're looking at. And then if we're looking at laptops, I you then come up with your campaign. So
Uh-huh.
if it's back to school season, maybe I'm finding a teacher, I'm finding a college student, I'm finding an IRL streamer. So then it's like, what does your campaign look like if I'm only launching one computer? And so from that campaign, I'm kind of okay. I could also sometimes be given, you need to have 15 creators. There are
Okay.
certain parameters that are given to you by either the product manager, the VP. Like, again, influencer managers aren't operating in a silo. So they're getting lots of opinions, lots of, guidelines given to them by all sorts of people from the chain of command. And then you break it down kind of based on the campaign. So let's say for a quarter, I have $250,000. It's back to school season. And I'm trying to push a laptop,
Mhm.
$500 off if you use your student ID. Some creators that I'd look for would be, university specific creators, things like that. Um, you look at your size, you break down by size, how much you expect they're going to cost. Maybe you want one big creator for awareness, but you want five smaller creators to drive conversions. So then you're going to look at a techie, like a more tech based creator. So again, it varies. You
Mhm.
really break it down multiple ways. But what main things are what you're given is what you have. You don't get any more.
Mhm.
If you don't spend the money by the end of the quarter, the money's gone. So like
Mm.
you will probably see sometimes towards the end of quarters, there's like an influx of deals because people
Mm.
are like, I have an extra $20,000 that I was planning to spend. Need to let me do this. So I always tell like my friends that are creators, be ready the last quarter, like the last month of every quarter, and like that's why I always say follow up that last quarter because if there's any last minute deals, you can pitch yourself for those. If not, you're getting ahead of the next quarter. Um, yeah.
And then
So
fiscal quarter, right?
yeah, and
Okay.
I mean, it depends. So,
Oh, okay.
like, every company is different. Some work on a traditional calendar year, some do on a fiscal quarter. Most people won't tell you what they do. So I work under the impression that if you're, January to December, you have quarter one, two, and three.
Mhm.
If you know about fiscal years and fiscal quarters, you could try to apply that. But I would just say, January,
Okay.
February, March, quarter one,
Mhm.
April, May, June. So that's as broad as I can kind of like
Okay.
I don't know how much specific, but and again, there are so many things you are looking at. It's not just creators and like what type of content the creator is. I've been given tasks where it's like you need to promote this controller but we're trying to sell more controllers in Europe. So
Mm.
then I'm going to look for a creator in Europe that has a European audience. It's predominantly Europe, where the audience typically watches games that would be played on a controller. And I think there's lots of determining factors for why brands are looking at certain areas and certain audiences and why they're trying to sell. You can look at things like market share, all sorts of stuff. So there's so many factors that come to play. So I think it's also important to know that like budgeting is really, really complex. And so when a brand tells you like, "Hey, I don't have money right now," it's also probably not a lie. Like Um, and money sometimes magically appears and sometimes money gets taken away. I've had
Mm.
times where I've reached out to people and I'm like, "Hey, I'm trying to pull some proposals together. Can you send me your rates for X, Y, and Z?" And then I like take all those rates and then the manager or whatever could be like, I don't like any of these. I don't want to move forward. And then that budget's just gone. I don't get to use it.
Dang.
And so like, that's fully a thing that happens. And so like if budget gets taken at the last minute, like they're not I feel like a lot of creators like think like, oh, this brand is telling me like they don't have any money, but they're a massive company and they paid, so and so. Well, they probably paid so and so with 2 quarters ago's budget,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? So it's like I think that's huge. Is like I will see a lot of people. They're like, "Oh, they're only offering me X amount of money, but they're huge. They have, this big of an audience. They could pay more." I mean, in theory the brand could pay more, but they probably don't have the money at the time to, so what they're offering is what
Mhm.
what they have.
That's great. I feel like a lot of creators just, like, miss the business side of it, and it just, like, goes over their head. Hypotheticals, I have more. Um, what's the smallest creator a company has worked with? Like, or I guess because you can't give specifics, but, like, can you ballpark hypothetically, like, what the smallest paid creator for a paid deal and what a deliverable with this could look like? Sorry, the question's kind of vague, but
Yeah.
let's just use, like, to make it, a little bit easier, maybe to be a little bit more specific, like, let's say hypothetically TikTok. Like, the smallest TikTok creator and, how much they were paid for a deliverable, which,
Yeah.
like, deliverable being 1 TikTok video maybe.
So this is hypothetical, but if I
Mhm.
was looking from a brand's perspective,
Yeah.
I would say probably 1,000.
Okay.
Right? Is that the what you need 1,000 to have a link in your bio?
Correct.
Is that yeah. So I would say 1,000 on TikTok would probably be my minimum
Okay.
threshold. Um, from a brand. Personally, I would want usage rights. So I would want the ability for 30 days to use it either on my social channels
Mhm.
or put ad dollars behind it. If I'm whitelisting and putting ad dollars, so I'm boosting and you're getting views from like my media dollars, depending on how intricate, because it also depends. Like, did you need to go out like how long did the video take or did you just do a quick little trend, if it's a quick little trend it's an hour's worth of work. 500 or so, but again, I that's usage rights, like
Mhm,
I'm using it. And I feel bad saying that because that doesn't feel like a lot of money to use for 30 days.
mhm,
Um, but I think, that's it. That's if I'm putting media dollars behind it. Because then also, if a company is paying to boost your video, that's helping you.
mhm.
Wow,
You're
20
getting
months.
views.
Let's
They might
go.
not be. I know not every view is going to result in a conversion over to your account, and people are actually going to engage and follow and continue watching. But it does help a little bit. So I'd say probably about that $500 ballpark.
Okay.
With usage, if there's no usage and it's 1,000, I'm probably not paying. And again, this is personal for me. Health and fitness brands are way different,
Mhm.
because those communities are so different. So it really, again, it depends. But I would say 1K because you also want the ability to have a link in your bio if you're trying to link out. So yeah, I would say that's kind of the starting point.
Ooh, what about the reverse? Like, hypothetically, largest creator or, like, how much can this budget go up to for one
Budget
creator?
for one, I mean, if you're looking at Mr. Beast and like, I personally would love to know, Mr. Beast, if you ever see this, tell me about the inner workings of your company. I'm so curious. But like when you're looking at someone like that, and again, it depends if we're looking at YouTube, is it a is it an ad read? Is it simply just a 60-second integration? Is it just a product integration where the product it just happens, to be
Mhm.
placed? It can get really high. I have paid people the equivalent of my salary before, and when I do that,
That must
I
feel so, like
I picked the wrong side um of the coin to be on. But again, those are not just one post.
Oh, okay.
Like that's a full partnership. That's 12 months. That includes being able to use their name on marketing materials, use them on retail, use them in e-tail, have them do photo shoots, have different deliverables every month. It really ranges, but yeah, there's a lot of money in it.
That's insane. Oh, I also had a question. We're getting towards the end of it because I don't wanna hostage you too long, but I meant to ask you this earlier, and then I forgot because I had more questions, but this was something that I'm nosy about. What are your pet peeves as an influencer manager?
Oh,
I wanted
um,
to ask this one.
you will see this. I feel like every couple months, all the influencer managers I follow on Twitter like go on a tirade about this. Put your email in your bio. I cannot stress this enough. I do a lot of manual searching for creators. Creator IQ and Tagger are two platforms I use a lot, and those will pull, those will have emails and stuff. But I also do like to do manual searches. If I come across a TikToker and I go to their profile, I know TikTok bios are limited. If it's not right away in your link tree, I'm not gonna keep clicking. There have been times where I've looked for creators and I'm like, oh, I really want to reach out. And I've clicked through every profile and their email is nowhere. Or the only place it will be is like in their YouTube and you have to do the CAPTCHA to like get through it. But
Oh,
YouTube limits that. I think you can get 10 emails a day. So like I remember there was one time at Razer, I was doing a campaign. This is very specific. I was finding Diablo people that streamed Diablo because it was ahead of the Diablo launch,
mhm.
and we wanted to do a huge gifting campaign. We wanted to celebrate the launch of Diablo and send out a whole bunch of packages. Um, I literally just went to YouTube. I typed in like various searches around Diablo, and I'd pull people, and I didn't care how big they were, and if it wasn't written in their bio after 10 I couldn't use the YouTube CAPTCHA anymore. So then it's like so I can only find 10 creators a day because that was like a very manual hunt.
Mhm.
So please write your email in your bio. If the bio has a character limit, first thing in your link tree, like I am begging you because I will click one link And if it's not there, I'm just done.
Esme
um,
asked in every social media bio.
if you can, if you can't, Linktree. And I always say put it in the description. Don't even put it on like the email where you click out. Like if in your like about me business email, put it there. Because, if I find you on TikTok and it's not in your TikTok and I click on your Linktree and it's not in your Linktree and I click on your Twitter but it's not there, but then I go to your Twitch and it's there, if you're only putting it in one bio, you're still having to click through.
Mhm.
So put your email. That's my biggest one.
Do you have any other ones?
I
Things that
think
creators should avoid?
again, very silly, but like being rude. I think it's really easy to get like worked up. The big thing for me is when creators reach out, they pitch a partnership. I say, hey, I don't have paid dollars right now. Follow up again, and I'll let you know that like please keep checking in.
Mhm.
And then this has happened multiple times. They'll follow up and they'll be like, oh, I saw so and so just did a paid campaign. Like, why didn't you pick me? And I'm
No way they would say that.
Oh, it was pretty common anytime I'd have like a round of paid posts go out.
Uh,
Someone that once upon a time I told them no. They're like, and I know sometimes it's like, hey, I just saw Kat posted an awesome like partnership. Are you looking for partners? I think that's okay, but
uh,
it's like, why'd you pick them, not me? Like, again, there's so many choices. Like, it's not like I personally didn't select you because it's you. I needed that person's audience.
mhm,
So, not, I guess the pet peeve is not realizing there's a business aspect behind all
mhm.
decisions. Nothing is ever a personal choice unless you're that person that was really mean to me the day I got diagnosed with cancer. That's a personal choice.
Yeah, F
Everything else
them.
is everything else is a business. It's never intentionally trying to target one creator in specific. So creators that act like I am, I'm like, ah. So I
No.
would say those are my two.
Okay.
Um, or spamming way too much. Like I said, there's a limit. Don't email me every week. Just
What about
don't.
me? What about me? How about now?
Like I it's hard because it's like I want to appreciate the enthusiasm and I do,
Mhm,
especially when you can tell like someone really just genuinely loves the brand. Like I want to help, but it just clutters my inbox. So that's why I said I think for sure a quarterly check-in is
mhm.
good. And then if there's like a big moment in between, you had a big event, you had a great stream, you had a crazy viral video, I think you could do, no more than once a month, but I would even shy from that.
Mhm,
Unless you know the influencer manager and they're like a friend.
mhm.
But still, then don't.
But I still feel like
don't
even that kind of treads into the kind of, like,
that that even
weird
then treads.
area where it gets a little tricky.
Yeah, it does. I would like I said, I think you can kind of come up with like a schedule that's good for you,
Mhm,
Um set a day like once a month, pick your date and like these are these brands I'm going to follow up with. Put it in your calendar. But yeah, when you email too much or you spam too much, that's also really hard because it just like I said, it muddles the inbox. So it's not even like it's an annoyance in the sense that just makes the workday a little bit more tedious.
mm. Got it, got it. Alright, final questions now. What are your feelings of being an influencer manager in this role?
I really like it. I love what I do. In my current role right now, I'm still learning. I've only been there about 2.5 months
Mhm,
now, so it's still very new. I can't imagine doing a different type of job though. Like I said, I was a child of the internet. I was born and raised on Tumblr. I got grounded when I was like 8 years old from making a Webkins music video and like posting it on YouTube.
that is
Like
iconic.
Oh my god, I that was like the most trouble I ever gotten is my
A
dad
Webkinz
found
music video? I
my
guess if
dad
you're 8.
well yeah, I was 8 years old, like on like Mac like photo booth, like with my stuffed animals. My dad I got in a lot of trouble. But it's like I went to VidCon as a fan multiple times. Like it's I truly can't think of a different like a better role. I think there are some times where I have a little bit of a talk with myself where I'm like, am I contributing to a larger problem in the world? I think there's a philosophical discussion
Mhm.
around influencer marketing and how you can't escape ads when you
You wanna
use
break from the
influence.
ads?
And so, like, I think I definitely have moments where I'm like, what am I doing? Am I contributing to a larger issue with how we consume content? But at the end of the day, I love creators. I want to see creators succeed. I know the value as someone that I spent 2 days building a giant Lego house once for a brand deal with like life-size Lego bricks.
That's
I
insane.
I would spend a week scripting, a 30-minute long YouTube video brand deal. Like I have been on the creative side. I know how long it takes. So it's like I love now being in a position where I can advocate for creators because I think, like I said, we don't work in a silo. So there's a lot of people around me that have no clue what I do and they don't understand. They're like, "Oh, it takes 30 seconds to make a TikTok. Why do we need to pay for that?"
Mhm.
So I love being in a position where I can educate my coworkers and people around me about why we pay creators, why create influencer marketing is beneficial. On the flip side, as negative as it can be really great for brands. It creates great communities. There's so many benefits to it as well. So I love being able to kind of champion and encourage and teach.
Mhm.
So yeah, I cannot imagine doing a different job.
Oh, yay! I love that for you. And then finally, shout yourself out. Where can we find you?
Yeah, I am most active on Twitter. My Twitter is SquidneyAnn.
Mhm.
I post occasionally. I post like some job stuff sometimes. I did a couple creator calls like through my personal Twitter. That's actually, I know I said that, a tip. If you can find influencer managers for brands you like, follow them on Twitter. I feel or X, I guess it is now.
No one calls it
Um,
that. Eh.
no one calls
That's
it
so
X.
icky to say.
It's I when I have to use X in a meeting, I'm like, ugh. Um, but if you can see them, not even to like try to like kiss butt, but like I there were multiple times, like especially at Razor, where I'd have a new product and I'd like just tweet about it and I'd be like, who wants it? And I'd pick a bunch of people that like replied for gifting. So if you can find them, follow them on Twitter. I think there's a lot of they post a lot of valuable insights. So I'm active there. Other than that, I think my other active platform, I'm on TikTok, SquidneyAnn97. Gonna make some step challenge TikToks.
Let's
So
go.
that was my New Year's resolution was to make one TikTok a week, and I'm 2 weeks in, and I have yet to do that.
It's okay. Just
So
just make 5 TikToks by the end of this month and you're good.
that was exactly what I said. I was like, as long as I've uploaded 5 by the end of January, I did it, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, Squidney Ann, Twitter. I would say that's the big one. If you are a Sonic fan, please reach out. Please introduce yourself. I'm very new to the community, so I'm trying to get to know everyone, trying to meet the creators, meet the influencers, meet the fans. So please do not be shy. I just post a lot of cat pictures.
We love cat pictures.
We love cats.